So Tracy, thank you so much for, giving us the opportunity to actually interview you. I've had I've heard so much about the research that you and your team have put together. So to get you in person to talk about it is quite exciting. So Tracy, tell me a little bit more about yourself and what sparked your interest into this research.
Thank you, Pastor Willie. It's a real privilege to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. So a little bit about myself. My name is Tracy Mafile'o, and I actually live in New Zealand. In terms of my own family, I'm Tongan and Balangi.
I was going to ask, where does that last name come from? But yes, okay.
Mafile'o is my name that I was given at birth from my father's side. And when I got married to my husband, Taupo Tāne, I just decided to leave that there.
Oh.
And we have two boys. Tuvia's 13 and Moni's 12. So I live in New Zealand, but in terms of the work I do, I'm really passionate about community engaged research. And the ability of research to help surface stories that help us understand ourselves better, that can lead us to more thriving, individuals, families, communities, more effective organizations. So that's what I do in terms of work. I actually have a social work background.
Yeah.
I'm a registered social worker, but most of my work has been working in universities and in research. And currently I work for Avondale University as a research professor.
Oh, nice.
So it's a great opportunity to be able to lead and support research, which is helpful for the church, but also makes a broader contribution, an impact for good in society. So that's what I get to do at Avondale University. So then you also asked about what sparked this research.
Yes, I did.
So this research that we did is Adventist families in Australia. What sparked it was that the South Pacific Division was asked all of the unions across the region of the division of our church, what are some research needs that you have? What are some research or some things that you really wanted to understand or know more about to inform your strategic planning in the next quinquennium, so in the next kind of 5 years? So the Australian Union Conference said that they wanted to understand the changing makeup of Adventist families in Australia to help inform families' ministries' strategies.
Because our world is just changing constantly. So, it's good to understand that.
And, the thought was that we might have a picture of Adventist families that might be some decades ago. But so much has happened and so much is happening that we need to have family ministries and church programming that is responsive and really meeting the needs of families and helping our young people to feel excited about God and being connected to church and serving church. So that's really what sparked the interest. And the opportunity in terms of a couple of years ago, I started at Avondale. And so we were really pleased to be able to conduct this research. And I just want to acknowledge my colleagues who I worked with. So a lot of people would know Dr. Barry Gain. He led the value genesis research decades ago. He's a pioneer. And
he's done so good for the young people and the church at large.
And he's still contributing.
Yes.
And so he was really happy to come on board and just, in an advisory role, connecting what we're wanting to do now with all the knowledge and experience that he's had over the decades. And then Professor Rob McIver, who's our director of our Scripture, Spirituality and Society Research Centre.
Who could forget Dr. Rob?
Okay.
He was one of my lecturers.
Yes. Everyone seems to have that little chuckle when I mention my colleagues' name. Yes. So I hope you're still keeping up with your Greek there.
Oh, he might be disappointed with me.
So Rob McIver, and also we brought in Pastor Colin Renfrew, who was in the area and had the capacity and availability, and also a real passion for this area. So he worked as a research assistant And that was our little team.
Sounds like you've got a good team.
We made it work.
Yeah. Pastor Colin was one of my supervisors when he was pastoring at Wars Inn, and I was working under him as a student minister. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Pastor Colin used to be my pastor in Gisborne, New Zealand in 1995 and 1996.
He has been around, hasn't he?
Yeah. And so because I knew him from then, that was actually my first social work job in North New Zealand. And he and Mel had just arrived and were our church pastors, and we, worked with growing a youth group there. And I just know the kind of support that he gave as our church pastor. And so I had trust that he would be a person who could enter into some of these difficult conversations that we needed to have.
Yeah, what a great team that you've just mentioned, Tracy. Wow. That's there's a lot of wisdom there. So now I know that I've given you so many questions, and you probably like being overloaded with the questions, but I'm sure that we've cut the questions down and we're able to focus on some. So the first one that I want to just put it out there is, what has been one of the most surprising and inspiring discoveries in your research?
Okay, in this particular study, let me just explain first. So it was the changing makeup of Adventist families, but we wanted to understand what were the types of issues that families were experiencing. How did that impact their Christian life practices and development? How could family worship or faith development, Christian life practices in the home be encouraged, and what are some recommendations? So that's what we set out to do. There were kind of two parts to it as well. We actually engaged the Christian Research Association to do some analysis of the Australian census data to see what could be understood about Adventist families from that data. And then we did some qualitative research, which is really not about the numbers, but it's about people's stories and understanding their stories in the context of their lives and their communities and their churches.
I love that. Yeah, it's not by the number, but behind a number there is a story.
Yes.
So,
We've tried to do both. And so there were 69 people who participated across Australia. So we had participants from 8 of the 9 conferences within our church in Australia. And we wanted to talk with the young adults. We spoke with parents, local church pastors, local church leaders, and also conference leaders. So quite a range of people. So just wanted to say that. But you asked what was one of the most surprising or inspiring discoveries in this research. So I'm really speaking to, the storytelling. So one of the things that I found quite inspiring, quite moving actually, is that there were a number of the young people who were in a focus group or in an interview with us who talked about the importance in their journey of their praying grandmothers. And I just got the picture that there are some grandmothers who've been so faithful in praying up not only their children but their grandchildren. And these young adults are saying, my grandmother praying for me has made a difference. And I just find that's amazing. So I just want to honor all the praying grandmothers that are out there, and they're just doing their thing, praying up their grandchildren. How important is that? I found that quite moving, because often we're looking for the the big flash program or the solution, but these simple basic things and the faithfulness of grandmothers who pray, I think that's.
can I just butt in for a minute, because it sounds like you're getting very emotional when you're talking about grandma.
Sorry.
And I'm getting emotional because I know I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her prayers.
See,
So
I love it.
yeah, so we can get emotional.
Yes.
We can get emotional because it's real and it works.
I'll tell you another thing, which is kind of at the opposite end of the continuum, like a praying grandmother. But after we'd gone through the analysis, looking at all the themes from the stories, and then talking to our family ministries leaders at the AUC, at the union, one thing really struck us, and that is and we come up with this phrase, and it is the exponential missional potential of a family ministries approach. Let me say it again. The exponential missional potential of a family ministries approach. So we could see family ministries as something that is a department. It's a silo. The family ministries people go and do their things, whether at local church or at conference. But after doing this research, I realize that we need to apply the thinking, a family ministries thinking, to every part of our church. And why is that? It's because most people within the church are part of a family. They might not all be kind of like regularly attending Adventist church, but we're part of families. It's how God created us to be.
Yeah.
And so why would we just think of individuals? Why don't we kind of come with that family ministry approach? The other thing is that we can put so much time into what happens in the worship hour or in a Sabbath, in the Sabbath programming. But in terms of if we look at how we spend our lives, a lot of our lives are spent with our families. It's in the morning when you're getting ready for whatever you're doing the day, at the end of the day, on the weekends, we're with our families a lot of the time. And so there's so much potential to kind of nurture and support and even talk about what's happening in that out of church, out of Sabbath hours time, and kind of applying that thinking that not individuals, but families and collectives.
I love that approach, and I love what you've suggested. And I guess I'm a little bit biased because I am the family's ministries director for Victoria, and I love that how you put it and phrased it. Everything that we do should come under the umbrella of or the approach of family.
Yeah,
Mindset.
mindset.
Yes,
Approach.
yes,
Way of
because everyone has a family. All comes from a family.
Yeah.
Whether it's dysfunctional, whether it's functioning well, we're all part of a family.
Yeah. So if we're thinking retention, if we're thinking evangelism, if we're thinking, the church program, but a whole lot of spaces, thinking family.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you guys have found in that from your research. Um, Another question I have regarding families. So every family faces challenges. What are some common struggles you've seen in Adventist homes today?
Yeah. So in this research, obviously there's something like Adventists in Australia are around about over 63,000 families, over 23,000 Adventist families with at least one SDA, person in it. So a big number. And we just spoke to 69. Look, we do have a survey that is currently open that we would love everyone listening to this to fill out.
Yeah.
So if you see Pastor Willie at your church asking you to fill out the survey at this link, please do so, because we'd really love to collect more data, which helps us to say, across Australia, these are the issues, the main issues
Yeah.
that families are experiencing. But based on our in-depth storytelling, qualitative interviews, there were some things or experiences that those participants talked about.
Yeah.
Grief came up, the impact of grief and all sorts of grief, whether it's a child leaving home, growing up, flying the coop, going to university, or the loss of a parent or a loved one. Neurodiversity.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. And how families deal with that, and also what that means for engagement with church or disengagement from church, because it just becomes really challenging with different behaviors and trying to manage reactions, and mental health issues as well, with some of the things that people talked about.
And just going back to that point that you made, if you see me, local churches see me doing a research or doing this survey, please fill it out. But if you also see me and you haven't seen the research, come and talk to me and ask me, where's the research? I want to answer the questions. So
Little promo there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, Another question that I have, what does your research reveal about how faith is passed down from generation to the next?
Mm, that's good. The when I first thought about this question, the thing that came to mind is example. It's mostly passed down by example, by people seeing, by our family members seeing our actions and not just the words that we speak.
Yeah.
And so that example of the praying grandmother that we talked about, that we love, that we feel so emotional about, um, sometimes people said it's just knowing that my parents actually have their own devotional time. It's not just something that it's talked about kind of theoretically in the head. It's something that they see their parents doing. Um, yeah, so faith is passed down generationally, I think mostly by example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great answer. Like, by example, I think um, we minimize the importance of example by not showing it. Yeah. We often have corporate worship, but then we expect our kids or our family members to know it. Like they have to have personal relationship with Jesus themselves, but we don't model it. What does that look like? Yeah. So, no, that's excellent. I know that you've got a piece of paper in front of you with a few more questions. So I'm just going to flick through. Um, there's some questions there. Are there any programs or initiatives that you have been that are practically effective or particularly effective in supporting our families that you come across in your research?
One of the things that we heard about, and I'm not sure whether it has been done in previous years, but there was one camp meeting that had a special camp program for neurodiverse children or families with neurodiverse children, and they set up this special program just for that. And I wasn't in attendance, but Pastor Colin Renfrew had told me about this.
Yeah.
Um, and and that the parents found that it provided a space of kind of support as well for each other. The parents, to parents, we were able to have that space of sharing as well. So I thought that was quite an innovation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look, one of the, if we think of our church programs, we have the mainstay things, and one of those things is Sabbath school.
Yes.
And I often understand Sabbath school, this is the teaching time, and it's about the lesson, or, it's about getting our theology straight.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the really encouraging things from this research is that we heard people talk about their Sabbath school class as being a place of belonging, a place of safety, when they were experiencing really challenging life issues.
Yeah.
They were able to come and share about that and get the support and work out or work through or do a reworking of their faith in that kind of small group environment.
Yeah.
So small groups were really important. But a Sabbath school can be a small group if it's facilitated and set up as a place of belonging and safety and acceptance for people to, get that support. In addition to the theology and go.
Yeah. It's so important what you've just shared, and I love that you bring out the concept of Sabbath school being part of that um, strategy. Because I think sometimes we have just had Sabbath school in the box. That's Sabbath school. This is how we're going to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But making it relational,
Yes.
making it yeah,
And
doing life together.
this is how you can apply a family ministries approach to Sabbath school.
Yeah.
It might be an adult Sabbath school lesson,
Yeah.
but you're embracing the people in that as part of a family, and all of that comes with them, with that experience, and you're helping them work through that. You're providing support in these times of, crisis or difficulty. One of the things that we found as people talked about significant life or family issues that they were journeying through is that there tends to be, there might be some kind of crisis, someone's going through mental health episode of some sort within the family, there tends to be an isolation and a disengagement. They'll step away. So if they're not part of a close group of belonging where people know them and have that relationality, people aren't going to notice. They're going to withdraw, and people just go, oh, they must be busy, or they haven't turned, or then it's not noticed. That's how important that kind of group is to, before a crisis or an issue is happening, that you've already have that close supportive group.
Yep. Very good. Very well shared. And so, what advice would you give to church leaders who want to better serve families in their congregations?
Right. Another basic thing, I don't know, you've been a minister, and one of the old things that we expect, or we think ministers do, is that they visit the people in their church. And I think this is a really kind of just a basic foundational thing that can easily get slipped off in the more technologically focused world that we live in, where you can kind of do a Zoom call or a phone call, or you can send a messenger chat or something like that. But I think the importance of being in people's homes, sitting down with them, just that visitation. And again, because then you're building up those relationships and those connections, and you can see so much more. You can understand so much more by being with someone, even just briefly in their home space. And you're going to get much more than just a quick messenger text, or if you're just kind of talking with someone on a phone call. So anyway, just a basic thing, but I think visitation, prayer, practical help, small groups. What can you do? And I don't know, different small groups are going to work in different spaces. I was just at Avondale, and really loved going to Avondale University Church, and there was a young person up the church. They were promoting small groups, and one of the students says, I'm part of the skate small group. So small groups can mean a lot of different things. It could just be your Sabbath school class that is kind of creates that. And I just think paying attention to your local church culture. And I think pay attention to the fringes. And maybe this is my social work background, but, what's happening on the margins and on the fringes? And if we focus a bit more on engaging and caring for the margins and the fringes, I think the people in the centre will be okay. So, is there a culture of openness and authenticity, inclusivity in the church? Is it an emotional space for all people? And I think as a pastor and a church leader, there's a duty of care for what's the culture of our church, and what can we do to make it a safe and a welcoming place for people to be able to be supported. To have someone and have a community journey with them through whatever life is throwing at them.
When I first came into the church, when I was about 14. I got baptized when I was 14 or 15. And I noticed, growing up in a country church, I noticed one of the things that I loved was that after church, families or people that you didn't really talk to will come and invite you home. They would just come and say, oh, you're not having lunch anywhere? Okay, come with us. And I found that really, really relationship building, showing me that my church cares about me. And these people wanted me in their house. And I think it's a dying art in our church. We don't often have lunch together.
You're talking to someone who's so passionate about hospitality and food and sharing food, though. You're preaching to the choir here. Oh, yeah, huge.
Good relationships in your church. Food is the way to go.
Especially with young people.
Especially with young people.
With a 13-year-old, I know life is about food, It's all about
sitting around a table, eating food and chatting breaks down barriers.
Yeah, and I just, as you said, that sitting around the table, that's it's really interesting what Jesus chose to do in his last kind of days and hours, what he chose to do with his friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last
And
supper.
that example, and I think we need to kind of take that beyond the kind of ordinance kind of experience that we do at church. I mean, and take it into other parts of our life at the table.
Absolutely.
Are we going off track?
No, like, did you have any more on that one, or
No, I think
I
that
can
goes
ask?
for local church pastors and leaders.
Yeah.
but-
Excellent. Okay. So I've asked you what impact sort of or what advice can you give local churches? Looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of Adventist family life? Yeah.
We could look with despondence because there's so much that that families, so much challenge that is out there just generally. Whether that be just generally and increasing, poverty, mental health issues, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah.
Um, but what excites me is that I think as churches we have such an opportunity to journey with people, to kind of break down the walls of the church and just be connected and just be that place that is that kind of thriving community space that is able to be salt and light and to just kind of reflect God and be Jesus' hands and feet. And it's not just about dealing with and responding to an issue. It's about being this family of God. Break that down. Like it easily rolls off our lips, right? And we easily sing the song, I'm so glad on the part. But let's do that. I think there's real potential there.
I think you used the two phrases there that really, stood out for me was, I think we're really good at doing church. I think we need to move on to the being church.
In church.
Yeah, being the hands and the feet of Jesus. We're really good at doing the program, doing the music, doing the sermon, doing, the Sabbath school. But what does it look like if we were being that?
And that takes a lot of courage because I think things could look different. Like we can get comfortable in our ideas of church and what the tradition and what we get comfortable in it. But actually, sometimes these things can be uncomfortable to kind of break out of molds that might not be working, to kind of explore new things that God is calling us to do, to be that. To be
Exactly,
church.
to be the church. No, thank you so much for that. So we're coming towards the end. I think there's a few more questions, but if you could give one piece of advice to Adventist families based on your research, what would it be?
I think start early. It's never too early to be thinking about our responsibilities as parents, as as aunties and uncles. Like we might think about the importance of school, or setting our kids up in life in terms of a job. But we actually also have to have those conversations and create the space and prioritize, and just consistently. And if we get off track as a family, like, oh, we haven't had family worship for 3 nights, don't just come back to it in a simple way. Keep consistently having those conversations and praying with our kids, and just finding different ways to just have those spiritual conversations.
Yeah. I think this is where family worships comes in, hey? Ooh. It's not just a time. I think sometimes we have made it, oh no, family worship again.
You just
We've
don't feel like it because you.
we've made it, we've made it another church service. Sit down, we sing a song, and we listen to Dad preach. And if you're not listening, you might get in trouble at the end of it. But family worship is meant to be fun, isn't it? It's meant to be fun, enjoyed, and it's an opportunity for conversation over a meal, or it's just set time aside to. It's an opportunity to speak life into your kids and your family and to each other, acknowledging each other's roles in a family.
Yes, yes. One of the things that I've been learning lately, maybe a little bit off track, but maybe not, is the leadership that our children can provide and the nurturing that they can even give to us. That kind of let the children come isn't just them coming, but it's just opening up the possibility that they might have some spiritual truths to bring home to us.
Yeah.
I just think kids are really incredible in being honest, and you think you're doing, think this is happening, and they're reading it a total different way, and boom, they drop these bombshells, and you just think, oh no, that was God speaking through my kid, giving me that little bit of feedback, and I think that's okay too.
Yeah.
But just giving them to asking them to share a verse and what they think it means. And it's just amazing, I think,
Yeah.
allowing them to take the lead in that as well.
Yeah. So I have asked you some questions, and I think the questions that I had in mind as well was, you've covered them.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you've covered them. So unless there's other questions that you feel that could bring more out of your research that I haven't asked.
No, that's I'm happy with what we've done.
Yeah.
I think, look, there is a report there that you can read more about the research if people are interested. There's a 2-page summary with some things for families as well as for local churches and leaders, and even for kind of conference and union and, different leaders or leadership of our church. So we really tried to tailor some recommendations that could speak to, all the different parties or different groups who this relates to. But I guess if there's just anything else, we have finished this part of the study, but we've got this survey that will really help us to understand a little bit more. So really hoping that we could get some participants and just be able to keep going this. Yeah, but nothing else to share, but thank you for the opportunity.
No, Tracy, the thanks should come from us to you for the time that you set aside to be with us and to share on the research that you and your team have done. It's amazing because we do need this sort of research done. It will help us as departmental directors, as church leaders, to know the resources that we can provide for our churches, our local churches and our families. So it's just been amazing. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you.
You
Thank
have been
you.
amazing, and I hope you have, because you're here for a few days in Australia.
Yes. Few more days.
A few more days. Yeah, you've come to a very good country, beautiful city. I know you're from the land of the long dark cloud. Is it? Is it the land of the long dark
It is a
cloud?
rainy cloud, but
You've come to the land down under. So
yeah.
enjoy your time in Australia, and it's been so good to have you on
It's a
this
pleasure.
interview. So
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless you too.
Thank you.